It's always a pleasure to be with all of you. I'm sure a day will come that we all can in person meet all of you. I'll be even more glad to meet all of you in person. So congratulations, first of all, for celebrating 3 years in BNI. I know 3 year journey is a very interesting and experienced journey. I'm sure you would have gone through a lot of ups and downs, and especially during the tough times. This is a wonderful experience for all of you. Generally, people, they say in business, if you can hold on to 1,000 days, then you'll be able to successfully run a business. So all you need to do is to hold on to 1,000 days so that you can be on your self-sustaining mode. But these 1,000 days are even more stronger because you're out of the 1,000 days, I think close to about half of the time, you've gone through some of the things that the whole world has never seen in the recent past. Especially in our generation, we wouldn't have seen any pandemic. Our parents' generation also wouldn't have seen the pandemic. And maybe some of us, if we are lucky enough to say that we have a grandfather or great grandfather, which is about 120 plus years, and they are still alive, probably they'll say that they have seen something like a Spanish flu in 1890. So apart from that, nobody has seen something like that. We are actually going through a tough time at this point of time in the business world. So the topic that I'm going to deal with, especially, is not on pandemic, because we don't want to talk about pandemic anymore. That's what Ganesh and Sriya said, that we want people to be on a positive note. I think we are almost on the verge of getting out of pandemic, because one side the vaccination drive is happening big time, and some of the things that we have seen in the recent past, especially the last month or so, is very tough, very bad. When we heard about Corona or COVID, we were all thinking that it is happening somewhere. And in the last second wave is actually hit very badly. It is not somewhere, it is actually happening to our neighbors, to our own houses in some of the places. And I'm sure every region has lost some of the members also. In fact, BNI Coimbatore also, first time we've lost one person about 15 days back. So having said that, let's move on. See, the topic is actually a little extension of growing. So I want to actually talk about gear up to scale up actually. So that's what I was actually talking about it, but there's not much of a difference between growing and scaling. So growing is just step before that. I wanted to actually take you to the next level, because I've logged in about 4:15 or 4:14, 15. I was able to listen to a lot of people, and there was very interesting networking topic that you all had. 5 years from now, where you wanted to see your company. So I was really fascinated to see so many people talking about they want to grow multifold. Some of them have said that they wanted to have their presence across the country, and some of them said that they want to go global. So I believe that your vision is far ahead. So I'm not going to leave you with just growing your business. I want to actually really take your business to the next level. That is, the next level is scaling up. So if you really look at what we can learn from BNI, especially Santosh and I, who are in the business for almost 23, 24 years, and whatever business that we do it together, because Santosh and I have that kind of a relationship. And even before business, we know each other because of our road track days. So having said that, now what is that we need to do to take our business to the next level? And one of the very interesting things that I want to talk about just before I get into the topic is about how BNI can help you. So I'm sure all of you who are in this particular group, I'm sure you are excited about being a member of BNI, because at this point of time, last year during the COVID, from the day one of the COVID till now, when I say the day one of COVID, that is during the March, when we said that we are actually migrating to online world. We're not going to do in-person meeting anymore. Until today, Coimbatore has clocked somewhere around 300 plus crores of rupees of business in thank you note, which is a big thing at this point of time, in spite of COVID. And so some of our neighboring regions like Kerala, they are saying like business can only happen in through BNI at this point of time, and they are using it as an edge to make BNI membership work brilliantly. And even a smaller town in Kerala, they were able to launch it in a much bigger numbers. So all this is actually directly going to say that BNI is the platform, is the go-to platform for business owners like us. So having said that, what I personally picked up from the American way of managing business. So if you really look at business, there are different stages. There is something which you start a business, then you kind of build the business, then you kind of grow the business, then you scale the business, and then you sell the business. This is what usually happens in an American way of managing business. Whereas Indian management company, especially South Indian, whether it is Mangalore or Tamil Nadu, Kerala, we all have come from a different kind of a culture because we are very closely knit, family bond, lot of emotions. We are not like typically like a North Indian business people. We are so sentimental. So generally in our society, if anybody starts a business, they don't generally close the business because they don't feel like closing the business, or they don't feel like selling the business. So if you see in that sense, maybe our great grandfather of our person would have started this business and he still hangs on with the business because the business is so sentimental. On one side, he'll be losing huge amount of money. He borrows money at a very high interest rate and still sustain the business just to keep the wheels moving. But that is not what we are talking about here, because we are in a totally new era altogether. At this point of time, we are looking at really scaling up. So there's no emotion attached to business. So that's what something which I really picked up from the American way of managing business, more so in BNI, because we were able to literally feel the American way of handling business, because BNI is a global organization, BNI is an American organization, and our CEO Graham Weimiller is typically a hardcore business person with so much of business and numbers and process and growth. It's an amazing learning experience as far as me personally is concerned in business. Having said that, I wanted to ask all of you a question. How many of you wanted to make 10 times more money than what you're making today? Please use the chat box. Let me just check. How many of you are seriously interested in making more money? Oh, there are so many me coming in. A lot of people are excited to make 10 times more money. I could see the hands also going up. Very good. Interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, numbers are keep coming more fast than I thought. Interesting. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you another question. How many of you are ready to work 10 times more harder? I know you wouldn't expected this question. Okay. Oh, somebody said not exactly. Okay. I really liked it. Okay. So somebody said smarter. All right. So it's a mixed reaction now. 10 times more smarter. Very good. No, not really. Super. Thank you so much. Now you got the idea, like, intelligent working. So we are not interested in working harder. We are more interested in working smarter. And that is the reason all of you BNI members, you are already a smarter people. That's why you're here in BNI, because we have actually identified, found, and used this wonderful technique of reaching the potential customers smarter way. So you have a turbocharger by name BNI. So that is actually taking you much faster to the potential customer you want. Okay. So rightfully so, because we wanted to grow our business 10 times more bigger, but we don't want to do much hard work, because the more hard you work, you simply cannot grow your business to the next level, because you will be getting into the day-to-day challenges. You will be getting into the firefighting. Typically, the most of the small, medium business owners, which I've come across, including me, a few years back when we started, all of us during the initial stages of our business, we would have gone through so many things, and every single day you have so many challenges. When you go to the office, there is some kind of a fire somewhere, and then you need to put that fire off. Once you put the fire off in one place, somebody else will call you from the other side and they say some other fire somewhere else. So you go there, put that thing off, and you keep on doing all this time and time again throughout the day. And by the time you finish this evening, when you want to get back home, you're so tired and you feel, okay, you have solved a lot of problem today. And when you come back the next day morning, there's some other problem, some other fire, some other challenges. They're right in front of you. So this is typically what happens when we get into working inside the business, where you're typically involved in the business day to day fully. Whereas in BNI, I'm sure you would have heard this word many times, working on the business. You need to ensure that you start thinking about growing your business, taking your business to the next level, rather than getting into a firefighting mode. So you need to definitely develop a lot of people in your organization who can do all the hard work, and you personally can do a lot of smart work. So let's look at how are we going to do it. In today's context, if you wanted to really run a business so flawlessly with zero error and take your business to the next level, all these things that I'm showing out on the slide right now need to be in proper place. So first of all, every business starts with a vision. So you need to have your vision up, and you need to be very clear about where you want to take your business to the next level. And you need to have a lot of strategy behind it. Where you wanted to go is what you know in terms of vision. How are you going to go there is what is your strategy. And you also need to build a lot of people in your organization. You need to have the right kind of people in your organization. And those people should be much, much smarter than you. And then, of course, you need to clearly define in terms of the correct process. When I say process, right kind of systems in place in terms of how to have clear standard operating procedure for every single employee, every single division of the team member, and what are they accountable for, what are the metrics that they are answerable, and things of that sort. Once that is there, then you look at what kind of challenges are you going through at this point of time. How can you break those challenges into a smaller component? How can you look at your business over a period of next 5 years, and then again break it down to next 3 years, again break it down to next 2 years, and have your clear-cut roadmap for next 1 year. So you need to look at all those data on a week-on-week basis. Like you get into a car, you see a dashboard in front of you. The first thing that we check is the temperature, the fuel, and all of that is actually popped up on the screen in front of you before you even get into start driving. So this is what exactly we need to do. If you have all these things in proper place, then you can take your business to the next level in a big way. Okay, so now how do we really look at scaling up? Okay, the scaling up is the second stage. So what exactly is scaling up? Once your business is perfectly fit in, for example, you have your restaurant done. For suppose if you are in a restaurant business, you have a beautiful, flawless system of running a restaurant, exactly like what McDonald's are doing. Like what is McDonald's is doing? Like when you typically look at a restaurant business, one of the things that is very, very important, very, very vital for a successful of a restaurant is the consistency in taste. Like I'm sure all of us at home, our mother, our grandmother, wife, they keep on cooking. And one day you taste some very interesting food, maybe let's call it as a very nice South Indian meals, or maybe a sweet dish, or maybe biryani. So you have that food on that particular day. It really, really tastes superb. It's like awesome, yummy. The same person cooks the same dish the second time, but you feel there is some kind of a difference in the taste. It all depends on maybe your wife's mood. Probably if you would have probably fought with her, or you had some kind of a fight or some kind of a thing, maybe instead of putting a little extra salt, she may probably reduce the salt. We don't know. And so there's no specific measure saying that this is the kind of a quantity that you see in all those cookery demonstration show. Have this quantity, this measure, this timing. No, it may not generally happen in our household kitchen. The woman cooks, some of our men also cooks. It's all about the experience, and with your experience, you put the mixture appropriately, and you also give the time appropriately. So you don't really clock the time, or you don't do that. But typically in a restaurant like McDonald's, that is not the case. Every single thing is documented. How many number of minutes then they need to keep those potatoes, that cut potatoes, after frying it on the pan, and then before even putting the salt onto it on a French fries, to the number of same seed on top of a burger is all counted. It will be exactly the same in every other burger. So that is something which is called as this real specification in terms of every single process in that particular McDonald's outlet. Once that is set, then you take the business to the next level. That means you multiply the same system in too many other locations. This is what is called as scaling up. So typically, scaling up means you need to have one system ready, one business unit ready, one outlet ready, one manufacturing plant ready, without any much of an error, 99.9% efficiency when you run an organization. From there, you take it up and scale it up. But generally, what happens in our business owners' mentality, entrepreneurs, especially all of the BNI members, the reason that we are entrepreneurs, because We wanted to take chances. We wanted to become more risk appetite is more high, and we don't more than anything else. We are all super ego people. We don't want to be answerable to anybody because we wanted to be our own bosses, and that's where we are entrepreneurs, right? There could be many reasons for many people. So now, if you look at the problems that we generally face, suppose if I am running a restaurant, people are coming in. I have a very small restaurant, but people keep coming and people keep on saying that why don't you open another restaurant somewhere else, somewhere else, somewhere else, and we end up opening a restaurant somewhere else, and without having a proper back end, without having a proper system, and instead of having one restaurant, I'll be running from pillar to post on both the restaurant, both the side, the customer service, everything gets damaged, and eventually what happens? I'll not be able to justify the kind of a quality that I used to give before. Because of that, I end up in a lot of challenges in terms of finance, a lot of other stuff. So the scaling up is a very clear definition in terms of setting things right, setting a standard right. Then you take the business to the next level in terms of really multifold growing the business. That is exactly we're calling it a scaling up. Now, generally, if you look at the current scenario, what are all the challenges generally we face in a business? We face typically three things. One is as an entrepreneur, we don't have control on the time that we have because we have almost about 10 hours every day and we really don't know which one to focus on. We end up getting into too many things. I'm sure every one of us will have 100 things to do written in our diary, put it in our schedule. But eventually, every single day, you don't have control on the time. So you hardly finish anything that is actually taking you to the next level. The second thing that we don't have a control is on the market because right now, as you know, we are going through a lockdown and it's totally uncertain at this point of time. The price going up, supply getting hit, customers not turning, all that is actually the market that we're talking about. That also we don't really have a control. The third thing that we don't have a control in our own business because we really don't know what is actually happening in our business in terms of number of people, in terms of customers, in terms of data. We want to, there are so many things. When you look at your own business as a consultant from outside, you could find out so many challenges happening inside in your business at this point of time. So that also you don't have any control on. The second thing that I'm talking about is the control on people. When I say people, it's about three different type of people. One is the employees. The employees are actually not very happy in terms of salary, in terms of work. Well, I don't know what exactly, but how much ever you give, still people will not be happy. Second thing that I'm talking about is the people in terms of our vendors, suppliers, partners. That's another type of people that we come across. And the third and most important people that we come across in our business are the customers. So these are the three important people that we are interacting with. So people management is always a challenge because anything to do with machines is very easy to handle. Anything to do with people, it's very difficult to handle because every single person comes with different emotions, different frustrations, different feelings. So I cannot say that Ganesh will be happy tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock and he'll be sad at 4 o'clock in the evening because you don't know what is actually happening inside somebody's mind. So handling people is one of the toughest tasks at any given point of time. So that's something that we are going through. And most of the business at this point of time, we are all going through a challenge which is called not enough profit. So I don't know. This is something which is going on forever. And people still feel that at this point of time where the e-market or the marketplace in terms of e-commerce, the Amazon and all those Flipkarts, it's actually taken most of the business for a ride, whether it is to do with these, to selling small stuffs, to fresh products, to, I mean, you name it. They are there everywhere. And so every single business at this point of time is going through really, really tough time in terms of profit. So these are some of the challenges that we are going through. And at one point of time, we feel, how can we really think about growing our business where we really cannot even sustain our business? So we always feel, oh my God, there's no way that I can grow. I've already hit the ceiling and it is right above my head right now. I don't think I can really go anywhere else at this point of time because I've reached the maximum limit. I don't know what to do. So this is where most of the people are getting stuck. When this happens, how do you think of growing a business? You cannot really think about growing a business because you're already stuck. How many of you are actually experiencing some of the things that I'm talking about right now? Can you just put it on a chat box, please? Great. See, every single business at this point of time, we have to go through something or the other. If somebody says that I don't have any of these challenges, that means either you're lying or you don't know much about your business. Somebody else is running a business, and that particular person is literally taking you for a ride. So be very careful. If you say that I don't have any problem like this, that means you have given your business to somebody else to run it, and be very careful with that fellow. Maybe he is swindling some money, or I don't know what is actually happening. Okay. So now the question here is, we reach a point where we start thinking about nothing is working. Okay, for some of us in BNI, okay, BNI at least is working, but otherwise nothing much is working. So typically what happens is we don't look at a strategy. What is a strategy? It is relatively a long period of time. It's a plan. Whereas we get into quick fixes. That means we find solution for handling today's challenge. We don't know about what's going to happen tomorrow. So let's solve the problem from today. And you try to get into all these quick fixes, which is actually not taking you to where you wanted to go. For example, if you know that at this point of time is the right time to build a team, train them, coach them, and then pay some extra salary and retain some of the good employees, instead what generally, including me, I will start thinking that no, these are all very expensive, and best, especially business like us, we are all typically into events and conference and training and consulting and all these businesses, which is definitely is directly hit because of COVID, and none of the things are happening. So obviously, what will I start thinking? I don't want to pay a huge salary to these employees. So can I cut down on these employees? So what am I doing now? I'm actually doing a quick fix at this point of time. Instead of thinking, no, these are people very important to us. These are our raw material as far as service industry is concerned. We don't have any product. We don't trade with any of those materials. So these are very important people in our organization. So people are my cost. I need to invest on them. So that kind of thinking process will not happen to me. I'm more so with most of us. So what we tend to do, we get into jumping into quick fixes. So at this point of time, what is the solution for all this? Where are we looking at? How the business is today, how the business is going to happen in tomorrow. And some of us have already experienced a lot of things have happened, including BNI, this transition to online. Right now, no, I mean, when somebody, I don't know how many of you would have believed, including me, when somebody during January 2020 would have said to you that the whole world will be stopped, the whole world will get into stuck, there'll be lockdown throughout the world, people will not be moving out here and there. How many of us could have probably believed this? None of us. I'm sure we would have laughed at them and say, "Oh, are you mad? What are you saying? The whole world is going for a stop. Number of people are going to die. No way it's going to happen." Because we have never seen something like that, lockdown for so many periods. So it's a lot of uncertainties at this point of time. But in spite of that, a lot of things are happening. Business seems to be happening. Business keeps moving on, and some of the businesses are really doing extraordinarily well, and they've kind of migrated at the right time at the right place. So people really make use of these opportunities. So we need to be typically looking at business more so with the future. So at this point of time, what kind of challenges, what kind of situation that we need to be doing? So people keep talking about this word called disruption. So before COVID, everybody was talking about disruption in a different sense. But right now, people are talking about disruptions in many sense. People are saying that there will be third wave, there will be fourth wave, there will be 10th wave, and there could also be even another pandemic, maybe 5 years down the line. So you don't know. So how are you going to prepare for these kind of things? And there's a lot of debate going for the last 10, 15 days that this COVID is something which is actually man-made. It was made in a lab somewhere. So this is another form of bio war. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So we have to be mentally ready for some kind of a disruption activity happening. So as business leaders, we need to be looking at our business is going extremely good. Fine. Everything is smooth. We are definitely at a big growth phase. If when things go like that, we should start thinking, okay, what is going to happen tomorrow if everything turns around? So generally what we do, we will start thinking only when we get into some problem. But most of the successful business, most innovative companies like, Elon Musk, person like Elon Musk is actually start looking at some extraordinary concept in terms of space, living in space and Teslas and things like that. Even before there could possibly be a reason for doing it, right? So the question here is, how can you prepare yourself into something which is going to definitely take your business on a hit? So you have to start thinking what could possibly happen when our business is going to go through some real tough times without even expecting anything like that. So are you really prepared for something like that is the next question. So we need to constantly look at how can we come up with some interesting idea time and time again. Okay. So I'm going to share this very interesting story. Every place in every town, I'm sure when you buy this watermelon on a particular season, you see a lot of watermelon vendors on the same street, multiple vendors, same area, right? How many of you have seen this? Can you just show your hands or raise your hand? Right? In one particular street, there'll be multiple watermelon shop. Okay. So everybody is selling watermelon. Everybody is selling watermelon, and people keep clocking. There'll be equally even crowd here and there. So one interesting guy, he thought, okay, how can I be different? How can I create something different? So he looked at it and he thought, okay, I'm going to come up with a very interesting idea. So the next 1 or 2, 3 days, he started observing the customers there. He saw how customers are coming, how customers are buying, how customers are actually finding it difficult, what are the challenges that they're going through. And he found customers are finding it very, very difficult to carry that because they already have some vegetables in the hand, some already 2, 3 bags in their hand. And taking this big watermelon, putting it in another bag is a big challenge because there's not much of space in the bag. So with that in mind, this guy thought, okay, I think this is a challenge where customers are facing, and I see an opportunity there. So he thought about it. The next day, early morning, he went to the wholesale market and started picking up the smallest watermelon possibly available in that particular market. So he picked up all the small stuff. Okay. And the next day in his shop, all the other shop had bigger watermelon. This particular shop had only smaller watermelons. Okay. And customers find it very interesting, very easy to go there. So one customer went by, next customer went by, third customer. So a lot of customers went into this particular shop and they started having so much of sales. 1 day, 2 day, what do you think would have happened? All the other competitors also started copying. So the next shop, the next shop, the next shop, everybody else went to the same market and picked up the small watermelons. So this guy started scratching his head. Oh my God, I need to do something different. So he thought about it and he looked at a very interesting idea. What is the idea? Generally, people buy, like when you see this watermelon shop, there'll be 1 or 2 watermelons. They'll cut open a small piece and they'll show the red color outside. That means the more redder the watermelon is, the more tastier it will be, right? So what this person did, he picked up the watermelon small in size, number one. Number two, he also ensured that the more the red, if you go buy from this particular shop. Again, the next day he started doing that. Few people went and the more people went, and a lot of crowd in that particular shop for 1 or 2 days. And what do you think would have happened? The other competitor also copied and they also bought in the same kind of stuff. The third time, this person again, he started thinking about it and he came up with a very interesting idea. What do people do? They take this watermelon home, they have to cut it and they have to eat it. So he said, okay, why don't I do that? So he created a small place behind his shop. He had 2, 3 people employed there with all the sanitary cover and a lot of sanitized material and so much of hygienic hand gloves. He started cutting there and putting in a cover and started giving. So that again, everybody else is copied. So the process continues, and this interesting person start thinking finally, oh, if I have to be successful in business, I need to constantly come up with something new. And that's where it's actually, by the way, the story it came up in in economic times. There's a very interesting supplement called brand equity. Brand equity. That was about 15 years back. I read this article. Very interesting. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to constantly come up with some interesting thing. You see a very interesting logo there. It's called GEEPAS. It's a very interesting company in Dubai. And this company is at par in terms of competing with companies like Sony or Panasonic. They are into wide consumer durable company, and they also have hypermarkets, supermarkets, and things like that. They are, and some of you would have probably heard about this supermarket by name Lulu, and they are one of the biggest competitors for them. And this company is actually an Indian company, is owned by an Indian. And this company will be doing a turnover of somewhere around 65 to 70,000 crores of business. And very interesting thing about this company is they are a zero debt company. They don't have a rupee loan from any bank. Okay. Now, what they have done, this company came up with this interesting idea, like this watermelon I'm talking about long back. The founder who went to China, this was about 25 years back, but China was just coming up at that point of time. There are a lot of manufacturing things were happening. So he went and he found some of the very interesting products. So he came up with that particular product, started selling in the Dubai marketplace in a pickup truck. He came up with a very thin torch light. Some of you have seen a brand by the American company called Mag Light, very thin black color torch light. So that's a different version of that Mag Light. China manufactured a thin black torch light. So he started importing that, created some very interesting buzz around the market for about 6-7 months. And then everybody else has started copying that. So then he created a very interesting brand by the name GEEPAS, and he put some sticker on top of it and then started selling it. So over a period of time, they were able to build on a lot of product ranges. And that's a separate, I think I may have to spend separate one full day next time to talk about how this company built from scratch and a lot of stories around them and how did they build from scratch and went on to become a big company. Now they have operations in many countries also. In some of the African countries, they have the production unit. So that we will look into something else. So what I'm trying to talk about is whether it is a watermelon vendor, whether it is a big company in Dubai, everybody looks at something to come up with innovation. Okay, so now having said all these things, I'm just actually setting the context in terms of the challenges we are going through as far as business is concerned. Now the next question is, do you really wanted to grow? Now there are a few myths about growth. Okay, the number one myth is all growth is good. Like your business have to grow. If you're not growing, it is not good. So all growth is there, definitely good. Bigger is always better. This is second myth. And third myth is business must grow, or if it is not growing, it will eventually die. Now the question here is, what is a myth? Myth is a belief, right? It's a typically it's a false belief. So what is the myth we are talking about? Business has to grow. I'm sure all of you know that business has to grow, but that is not the case. Business has to be bigger. That is not the case. Business has to be must grow, otherwise it will die. So these are all myths. So what is the reality? Let's look at the reality at this point of time. The reality is, the truth is, business can be, growth can be good or bad. Growth can be good or bad. Too much growth before preparation can overwhelm people, process, and control. So what it's saying is, if you tend to grow without proper preparation, you will end up into series of problems. Okay. I'll give you a couple of examples so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what are the things that is happening? If you wanted to grow and if you don't properly prepare, and if you wanted to grow, what will happen? Growth can stress on quality and financial controls. You remember sometime back I talked about a restaurant business. You run a restaurant business. People keep coming. They like the restaurant. It's very small. So you are looking at, okay, so many customers are coming. I don't have place to offer them. People are, most of the time they are in the car, and I'm really doing good business. I don't have to really think about converting my hotel into a little highly sophisticated AC kind of a restaurant, because I'm doing extremely good. Just because the customers keep on coming and telling you, why don't you open another branch, another branch, another branch, you end up even starting one branch without having a proper system, proper people. What will happen? You will not be able to do justice, so that you're not there physically. You're not able to control, because a restaurant business is very, very difficult business. If you don't have the control and consistency, you don't have a good chef, you will not be able to run. And the same chef, same kind of a quality, same kind of a preparation, giving uniformly is again another big challenge. So if you grow without proper planning, you will end up getting into quality constraints, whether it is a restaurant or a manufacturing or whatever it is, and then you will not be able to really control the financial aspect of it. So that's one aspect. Second thing is, Just because, again, I'm telling the same thing, just because you are not present in one shop, you're present in two shops, you're not present in one factory, you're present in two factory, maybe you're looking at putting up another factory, third factory, that means you're not literally able to go anywhere else. So what is actually going to happen? You'll not be able to see the customer in face to face. Your quality aspects are definitely going to get a big hitting. So you'll not be able to do justice in terms of customer service, delivering the right kind of quality product or service. When you do this, obviously the culture of this entire organization also gets a beating. The last and most important thing, when you're going into a particular phase and when you start getting into the next phase, and if you're not really prepared for it, you'll be ending up in a big issue. Now let's talk about the same restaurant which I've talked about. Restaurant, decent looking restaurant, not a very high-fi restaurant. It's not a fine dining restaurant. It was doing extremely good. Just because I wanted to grow, what I do, I change everything. I spend maybe 30, 40 lakhs on interiors and this and that. And I made this as a real fine dine restaurant. People are coming to my restaurant is not coming for seeing this fine dine. They're not coming for the interior. They're not coming for all the sophisticated extra service that I'm giving. We are going to one particular restaurant. I'm sure in every city, you have these smaller restaurants where you don't even go and stand. You don't even go and sit there because you don't get space to sit there. But you go buy parcel and come, or maybe sometimes you sit in the car and eat and come. You're going to that particular restaurant not for the ambience, you're going there for taste, right? So what actually happens here is, if you convert that particular restaurant to a fine dine restaurant, obviously your costs are going to go up. So instead of selling a plate of food, whatever the favorite food that you're selling there, maybe chapati with some gravy, for about 100 rupees or 200 rupees, because of all this value addition that you've done for the restaurant, you may have to sell it for 800, 900 rupees. If you have to sell it at 800, 900 rupees, people have got multiple choice. They can probably go to a little 4-star hotel nearby. So you wanted to grow, you're growing. At the same time, when you without proper planning, if you grow, you're automatically entering into the next segment of the business, which is very big, right? So that's what we're talking about here. The point here is, growth can be good or bad. It depends on what you wanted to do. So not all growth is good. Not all growth is good. So typically there was a very interesting insight is that growth, not all growth is equal to profit. Growth requires excess management capacity. If you're not able to handle growth, it's very, very difficult. So you need to prepare for growth even before thinking of growth. A more realistic way of looking at growth is, we as entrepreneurs, we have very, very little time in our hand. If you want to grow your business, you need to definitely have more money in hands. Can you afford that is a question that you need to ask. The more you wanted to grow, you're going to hit into a more competitive environment because the players are in different level and different structure. If you're not properly planning your growth can be very, very destructive. I'm sure every city, whether it is Hubli or a Bangalore, any city you go, maybe 3 years back, you would have seen some companies, some restaurants, some textile shops, some retail outlets are doing extremely good. Just because of unnecessary expansion plan, they did some expansion and they failed miserably. And that company right now is going through real tough time, or they would have closed down. How many of you seen something like that? Can you just put it on the chat box, please? In your respective town, in the last 2-3 years back, you've seen some good company. Eventually, they were doing extremely good, unnecessary expansion, and suddenly that company is no more, or maybe they are going through tough time and so many challenges happening. I could see so many people are responding to in the chat box. Very, very happy you have seen this kind of situation happen in your own respective town. Great. Now, having said all this, now what you really need to do to grow your business to the next level. The first and foremost thing, a growth and a product are two different dimensions. Just because you have an extraordinary product or extraordinary service, it doesn't mean you can take your company to the next level. There is a different dimension altogether. I don't know how many of you have probably heard this. When Ray Kroc the McDonald's, not the founder, actually the person who's actually taken McDonald's, bought over from the founder and taken the company to the next level. And he went to an university, an MBA university in the US, I think Harvard, and he asked everybody else, what is my business? How many of you know? He asked the students, MBA students of the Ivy League, I think Harvard Business School, and asked all of them, what is my business? Very good. Arun, Divya, superb. Mahesh. So he asked everybody, what is my business? And everybody said burger and this and that. And finally, Ray Kroc said, no, my business is not into burger making. Your grandmother can make much better burger than me. I'm into the business of real estate. Why did he say that he is in the business of real estate? Can anybody unmute and speak, please? Divya or Mahesh or anybody who said that you're the first people to respond to in terms of real estate. Can you just tell me why did he say real estate?
Yes,
Who's
Peter, sir,
that?
please go ahead.
Yeah, basically the prime location they are owning the franchises and in the major cities of the country where they are given the franchises. So the land acquisition and the establishment expenses are huge. So that may be the reason. Yes.
Okay, so the land valuation will go up as the company acquires, so automatically the land gets appreciated. That is one dimension. Second thing is on the location. You're right. So what he was talking about is that I have to provide a platform so the customer's convenience, actually, I'm tapping into the potential of customers. So the customers can exactly see wherever I am. Now, if you can't miss out a McDonald's anywhere in the world. If there is a McDonald's, you know it way before you actually see that particular restaurant, reach that particular restaurant. That kind of location they have. And that was very, very nice, Peter. So the question here is, how do you like, if you really look at this particular question a little more critically, you know, Ray Kroc is saying that he is not making good burger and grandmother can make better burger. So how is he able to build such a big company? So much of people working, so many number of employees working, and so much of profit, highly valued in the stock market in the US. How is it possible? It's a question that all of us ask. Now the question here is, what you need to have a product and your business has to be built around the product. Now let's look at what is actually happening to building around the product. Let's take, for example, of setting up a coffee chain. Okay. So setting up a coffee chain is more than just making a great coffee. I'm sure all of you know we have this wonderful brand called Cafe Coffee Day, where people started saying a lot more things can happen over a cup of coffee, right? You're not going there just to have a coffee, and you have so many other things to have. You can discuss, you can sit for a long time and things like that. So if you wanted to really build a business around this coffee business, what are the things that you need to know? Let's look at one after the other. The first thing that you need to know about these things in terms of before you actually wanted to master this and take your business to a bigger way, you need to know a lot of things. You need to know about the real estate procurement. You need to know about the facilities management. You need to know how to build a brand. You need to know about marketing. You need to know about finance. You need to know about sales, legal, audit. And you also need to know how to handle your vendors. And you need to have a lot of MI, the software in terms of handling your data, the food handling, supply chain, standardization, right kind of hiring process, training services, and all of that. So these are all the things that you need to have in order to build a better business. Okay. Now the question here is, you need to have all these things, and all these things will help only if your coffee is good. If your coffee is not good, if you do all these things, it is of no use, right? So now what is actually happening? It is not just providing a good coffee. You need to build a business around it. If you build a business around it, then you can scale it up. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here. Okay. So having a great product is definitely very interesting, but it is certainly not a sufficient condition for you to for you to successfully venture into a venture. So now what need to be done? So there's a $1 million question. Are you growth ready? Can your company grow? What do you need to do to grow? So I'm going to look at two things here. One is the professional competency. Second thing is personal competency. So how many of you, having said all this for the last 35 minutes, I've talked about all these time, I've talked about not to, I've never encouraged you to grow your business. I'm telling you, be very cautious. Don't get into problem. I'm sure you wouldn't have expected me to come and say this. I'm sure all of you would have expected you to really grow your business, take your business to the next level and things like that, right? So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because there is a reason behind it. Personally, if you look at our journey from 98, we started our company, Santosh and I, and we started that's the initial phase of business. Every business has got three phases in business. The first phase is what we call it as the incubation phase. What is incubation? When a baby is born, a premature baby, that has to be put in an incubator because it needs an oxygen support and so many other stuffs. And most of the IT colleges, some of B schools, they have an incubation center. Anybody comes up with an idea, they go to this incubation center, they start the business. Most of the startups are getting into that incubation center. Few months, few years to maybe few months or maybe little over few years, then they go to their own setup where they take the business to the next level. So the business has got three stages. The first stage is incubation stage. The second stage is called implementation stage. That's when you really learn a lot of things, where you toiled around, you made your hands dirty, and you learn the tricks of the trade. You know exactly what to do, what not to do, and things of that sort. So that is the second stage of the business. The third stage is what we call it as the eminent stage. That is, the business has actually grown much beyond than what we expected. So if you look at an x-axis, y-axis, a graph, and if you start looking at a business growing from 0, slowly after a period of 2 to 3 years, you will slowly grow the business and you take the business to the next level. So today we are in both the places like Hubli and Mangalore. We are talking about 1,000 days that we have already reached that incubation stage. That is pretty much we are in a comfortable stage right now. So from there, you go the next 7, 8 years. So if you look at any company, whether it is Ford or Facebook or companies like Walmart, you name that company, it would have gone through these stages, right? The second stage is called implementation stage. That will be anywhere between 3 years to 7 years, 8 years. Now, after this 12 to 15 years time, that's when the growth will happen. From one point, it goes really up. And I'm sure most of you in our MSP training, how many of you attended MSP here? Let me ask this question. All of you? Is there anybody who's not attended MSP? Yes. Okay, I could see only few attended. Very good. So in MSP, they would have talked about a very interesting concept called referrals confidence curve. Yes or no? You start getting some small business people start getting to know about you, and then you attend few more, then you do small things, then your credibility gets built up, and one point of time people really understood you build the confidence, and then it goes from one particular point and then it goes upwards, right? Hockey stick growth. The same thing happens in business also. So to give you an example, I'm sure you know about this huge hypermarket in the world called Walmart. How many of you know this, right? You know Walmart. Now, Walmart is a very, very big outlet. Like each one of the Walmart is somewhere to the size of 8 football ground. They have another 8 football ground as a stockyard at the backside. Superb outlets. So this outlet, today I believe in the world there are about 10,500 outlets of Walmart. Majority in the US. It's a good company. So if you look at the history of Walmart, there is a very interesting book by name Made in America. It's a biography written by Sam Walton, somebody else about Sam Walton. So he talks about the first outlet, the first Walmart outlet. It took almost 7 years for him to build the first outlet. Okay. Now, typically, this is what is the incubation period. The remaining 25 years, he had built 36 outlets. First outlet, 7 years. Remaining 25 years, he had built 36 outlets. On the 26th year, he started 1,000 outlets. So one outlet, 7 years, 25 years, 36 outlets. 26th year, 1,000 outlets. So that look at the number that I'm talking about. Small growth, slightly bigger growth, and then one point of time where the referral confidence score from there, the point hits going upward, and there he had started 1,000 outlets. Okay. So this is what typically happens in a business cycle. So in our company, when I talked about company 98, we started initial phases, we are going through so much of tough times. We slowly built a company and we got into multiple branches, and we had more number of employees. At one point of time, we had about 600 employees. Then we got into multiple experiment because we wanted to get into, we want to try into multiple businesses. We started about 6, 7 business here and there. We depended on so many other people. And eventually at one point of time, we had to go through real tough time, and we have to close down majority of the business. Some of it really clicked, like BNI is another business initiative that we have taken. That clicked. At least we didn't lose money into that. But so many other businesses we've lost heavily. So what actually happened from 98 to till 2007 or 8, the kind of almost 10 to 11 years of business that we have done, we made money. Those entire money had to go to negative because of the unwanted risks that we have taken without even getting into much of homework, right? So this is something which is a very big lesson for us. So what did we do? After 2009, when we got into real serious stuff of growing from 2012 onwards, we started BNI. BNI is also one of the new initiatives. Like that, so many other businesses, and slowly we got out of it. From 2012, it took almost 2017 to clear all the challenges, all the debts that we had. We cleared everything and we became a zero debt in 2018. So because of the 3 years of unwanted risks that we have taken, and some of the business expansion which we didn't even know, we got into real trouble. So the point I'm talking about to you is be very cautious before you do anything. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you, are you growth ready? I'm sure all of you would have. Now the first thing is, first we are talking about personal readiness. If you wanted to really take your business to the next level, personally you should be ready with few things. What are the things we are looking at? One is the personal readiness, professional, institutional, organizational readiness. All the things are common. Now, in personal readiness, what do you need to do? You need to have big aspiration. You're talking about growing your company, taking your business to the next level. You need to be very aggressive in your vision. Now that you have given the vision so high, you need to be committed to the vision also. So you just not getting into a bigger vision. You need to every single day you need to think about it, and that should be the primary focus. You need to be committed to your vision, and every single day you need to ensure that you are going to take the business to the next level. And third thing is the passion. You need to have passion towards business, because if you don't love your business, the whatever that you're trying to do, you may not sustain it for a long time. You need to willingness to delegate. You need to empower people. You need to adapt to the changes that's happening around. You need to be having a lot of financial disciplines in terms of time, and you need to be brilliant in terms of time management. You need to take care of your health, because that's more important. And in terms of handling failures, you may have to probably come across some challenges here and there, and you need to probably take care of that as well. And finally, of course, the family and friends, they also have to support you, and most of the time they won't, because they are so logically attached, they are very emotionally attached to you. So they will not give you, like, if you go and say that I want to build a company which is 100 times bigger than this, the family members will say no way, because this itself you are going through so much of tough time, I'm not even able to talk to you, and you are looking at something growing big. No, they will never give you support, because they are emotionally bonded. So they will not be looking at logical. The same way, if I go and tell my wife, no, I'm going through a tough time in my business, the first thing they'll say is close down your business, without even asking anything. They'll immediately say close down business, don't go to your shop, or don't go to your office from tomorrow, because they are so emotionally attached. So the number, my friend who's a big time entrepreneur, exporter, he says, Nassar, the number one enemy for you would be your family members, because they are emotionally attached, and they will never allow you to take risk. So that's about personal readiness. The second is about institutional readiness. This is very important. The first and foremost thing is about your product. You need to have an extraordinary product. You need to have a proper business model revolve around it, and you need to put in a lot of systems and process in place. You need to build a beautiful team, especially the leadership team is just to be really good. And you need to build a constant infrastructure. Depends on the business. If some of the business requires, and of course, everything is changed in today's context. Like, even before COVID, people were not actually going and eating in a restaurant, for example, because you had Swiggy and other stuff. So the importance of spending money on interior is not relevant. In today's context, it's even more relevant because people, I'm sure the next 1 or 2 years, people will be very scared to go sit in a restaurant and eat unless until people say that, we are 100% COVID free in all the world. Even if it is one country active, still it is risk because you don't know who is going to travel where, and we really don't know. So that is one of the things. Another things in terms of infrastructure, some of your businesses are service oriented, where you need to really build in a lot of people, good people in your company. Some of your businesses can be scaled up massively through digital marketing. That is also possible. In Coimbatore, there is a company. I mean, this particular person, one of our BNI members, are actually working as a consultant for this particular company. This person was working in a cosmetics company 7 years back as a sales manager, getting a salary of 30,000-40,000 rupees a month. Today, this guy started a company with some herbal products and things like that, and he's doing a business of close to about 1.5 crores every month. How is he doing it? His team is very small. They have a procurement team. They have some team here and there, and everything is outsourced. And what is he spending? He's spending close to about 60 lakhs every month on advertising in Instagram alone. 60 lakhs on Instagram. And then he gets a turnover of about 1.5 crore. Raw material costs, little bit of expenses here and there, everything put together every month, his net take home would be somewhere around 7 to 8 lakh rupees. So imagine 8 years back, today we have so much of opportunity because the digital marketing, digital field is so impressive, so amazing, because everybody spends their maximum time 3 to 4 hours every day on the phone. So you can definitely build around a lot of infrastructure revolved around your business. And need not necessarily you have to own it. You can outsource it. You need to get into collaboration and things like that. You need to have an extraordinary finance. You need to have the resources in terms of finance big time, good people, nice partnership, nice tie up with some of the good brand or good brand will or copyright or some of the patented products. All that is a very interesting thing. And in spite of doing all of that, you also need to have your plan B also. In case if plan A doesn't work, what can I do to get into plan B? So this is about institutional readiness. Now I'm going to leave you with few very, very powerful tools. This is from a professor in the US. He has done amazing research on this particular growing a company, and he came up with this brilliant tool. And I had actually attended his workshop, and I've gone through his course as an online course about 5-7 years back. It's a very expensive course, but I've gone through that. And he comes up with this brilliant tool. These are 14 different questions that he's asking. Before you want to get into growing and scaling a business, you need to be ready with the answer for these 14 questions. And if you have these 14 questions answer ready, it's like an acid test. You're done, and you can take your business to the next level. So I'm going to share this very, very powerful tool to all of you. The first thing, it is called the growth risk assessment tool. It's called the growth risk assessment tool. Whether you want to grow or not, that's a test that we are going to do. The first question that it is asking is, why should we grow? Why do you think you need to grow your company? Write your questions, keep this question ready. Do an exercise of this for yourself alone. Maybe you can also have your core team member, 2 people, 3 people, 10 people, your leadership team, in case if you have in your company a core team of about 10 people. Do this exercise and then see how you evolve and get into a good solution. The first thing is, why should we grow? The second question is, how will we grow? Now that you know you have to grow, how are we going to grow? Are you going to get into, like when I'm saying how are we going to grow, growth can typically happen in 2 formats. Either you take your product to different market, or you have a market where you build more products to. For example, you have a manufacturing business. You manufacture furnitures, and you are extremely good in doing that. And your furnitures are very, very famous, especially some of the furnitures that you do. Furnitures is a very broad term. maybe a furniture which goes to houses, maybe dining table or maybe a sofa, things like that. So maybe you have few products and you're extremely good in that, and you are very, very good in that particular product. Now, this particular product can be sold in Mangalore, can be sold in Hubli, can be sold in Coimbatore, can be sold in Bangalore. You can sell this product anywhere. Now, you have a product, and that product has to be taken to multiple markets. So it's called market development. That means you have an existing product, you're taking to different markets. Now, there could be another thing. Let's say, for example, same furniture business. You have a store in place in Mangalore where anything and everything to do with furniture is available there. That means you have a customer base. You have about 10,000 customers. Today, you are giving them furnitures. Anything to do with furniture, you are giving. Now, the same customer could also be a potential customer for buying a grocery. So you create a grocery store nearby, a department store. And then maybe you wanted to extend something. You wanted to have a mobile counter next to it. You can do that. You can have a restaurant next to it. So you have this 1,000, 5,000 customer base, and you are in Mangalore. You don't have to go anywhere else. You're saying that this is my market. I'm going to add more product to this particular market. That means it's actually product development. There's only two ways that you can definitely grow. Start looking at it in a different format. Broadly, there are two ways. You can go niche and micro niche and things of that sort. But again, either it could be product or the market. The third question is, how much should we grow? We are talking about 3 crore business today. We want to grow 30 crore business, or we want to do 3,000 crore business, or you want to go 30,000 crore business. It's all up to you. So how much should we grow is another interesting question that you need to ask. How much growth can we afford? This is a very interesting question. It's a $1 million question. What is this question? This question is about, okay, you are handling 3 crores today. Now, if you become 4 crore, it's okay. If you become 5 crore, it's okay. But if you double the growth, there'll be challenge, because your working capital, your stock procurement, your team at the back end, your front end team, everything will get a hit, because you cannot really you can't really handle that kind of a growth. But in case if you are planned well, this is the phase that I'm going to grow, automatically you keep your back end ready, you keep your financials ready, you try to get some funding, all that is possible. So it's all about how much growth can we afford as a company. It's a question that you ask. The next question is, do we have enough people to handle? Now, the previous question, we're talking about the finance to handle. Here we're talking about, do we have people to handle? Because people are very important component in today's context. People are the most important thing and a very rarest resources. I'm sure if I ask a question in this particular group of 100 plus people, how many of you want real good people? I'm sure all of you will say, I want good people, whether it is sales, marketing, technique, whatever, because people are in high demand today. So those are the 5 questions. The 6th question is, okay, do you have enough people? Now we are asking, do we have the right people? Now that's another interesting question. Everybody wants good people, but sometimes the good people, right people is also there. Some of the best people all may not fit into us also. Okay. So there is a very interesting book from a very leading HR guy. It says, don't hire the best, because the hire the best means he'll be best from the industry. He may not fit into your company. So hire the right kind of people. You don't need a MBA from so-and-so institution, because they come with the baggage. You need a person with common sense. So that is very interesting thing. So I always remember, our executive director, JC Bharat Shah, who's no more, unfortunately, we lost him. He always tells, Nassar, I hire people with common sense. I don't look for bigger graduation. I don't look for MBAs. I only look for people with common sense. So this is always something which he always tells. So this is a very, very interesting aspect which we need to be looking at. The next question is, okay, you have the right people now. You got people, you also have the right people now. Do you have hiring and training process? When somebody comes into your company, do you exactly know how to select that kind of person who can fit into your company? When I say don't hire the best, that means if you're not hiring the best, who is the right person for your company? You know it better. So you have a process in such a way, these are the people who will fit into our company. You can use psychometric tests. You have this something like DISC, You have something like MBTI. There are so many other different interesting tools available to assess a person's behavior. So do you have a right kind of hiring and then training process? Generally what happens in our company, we hire people because somebody recommended him. That particular person may not be the right kind of person. So we hire that particular person. And then what do? We tell our senior most person or some successful person in our company and tell him, boss, go with this particular guy, spend with him for next 2 months. He will be able to tell you everything about what we are talking about. This is what primarily done most of the company. Now, what actually happened, if anybody comes into our company and you put this particular person to any of these guys, so what do you think these guys will do? During the tea break itself, within 1 or 2 hours in that first day of the job, he will be put into another senior manager. This senior manager will have tea with this particular person or maybe have a cigarette with that particular guy. And he start telling, don't be like, this owner, that a boss in our company, this person is like this. Don't behave like this. The office, this person, whatever information that particular person should not be told on the first day, he will be told all this information. So what is actually happening here? There is always, there are three things in terms of learning. One is my way, another one is your way, the third one is the way. Now, what is actually happening here? The orientation that we are giving to that employee is either my way or your way, not the way. So what you need to have an exactly the right kind of process in terms of what are the things that you need to be doing. Something like an MSP program, member success program. So typically an employee success program, anybody comes into your company, you need to guide them in terms of everything, a textbook classroom kind of a system. So he will be taught in terms of the process, not your process or my process. Okay, so that is what we're talking about, hiring and training process. The next question that we're talking about is, do we have adequate financial controls? Now what I'm talking about control is that, first of all, it's about financial discipline. Second thing is, do you have a proper control in terms of it? Do you know exactly, like one employee added to the company, how much my overhead is going to increase a month? I'm adding this new infrastructure into my company. I'm buying a new car on the company name. For that, how much EMI I have to pay? Because of that, how impactful it will happen on my business? Because of this new expenses, how much more turnover that I need to do? So you have to do all these things in terms of your financial controls on a month-on-month basis. The next thing that we're talking about is a quality control. You want to grow. Like when you scale up your operation, the first thing that gets beating is the quality, because you're going on a mass production and people are there everywhere and you don't have physically testing or qualifying all those products time and time again because you're busy. You have people to do that. Do they be given the right kind of assessment qualities and process so that wherever you are, in whichever part of the world you are, you can control on these aspects? Is another important question you need to ask. Then you have to ask about the risk that is coming from the growth. If you grow, what are all the risks that's getting attached to this? What are the risks when I'm talking about? I'm talking about the culture. Everybody knows about the culture of the company. What kind of a culture we are already having? Just because we are growing, what kind of impact will have on the culture? What kind of impact will have on the customer service? What kind of impact will have on the customer experience? And then, of course, the cash flow. Because when you're growing, one of the very, very important things in business is the cash flow. People will talk about turnover. People will talk about the percentage of profit. But what is more important is the number of money that is coming into your company every single day, every single minute. So if your cash flow is getting, the cash conversion cycle gets delayed, obviously you'll not be able to run your business in a most profitable way, because you have to, like, cash flow is like an oxygen. You need to have oxygen, right? Then what kind of risk it will have in terms of supply chain, raw material, suppliers, and of course distribution and delivery. And finally, financial safety net. What is the safety net that you can have in every business? I know, like, whatever may be the business, your business, how much of risk can you take? Okay, if I risk to tune of 50 lakhs, I can manage. If risk to tune of 1 crore, I can manage. Risk to tune of 5 crore, some of you can manage. Beyond that, it's a challenge. So you need to create that safety net in terms of financials. So this is something that we're talking about risk. Now that you know about the list of the risks that is involved, what are the aspects that you can lessen? How to reduce those risks? Do you have a process and tracking mechanism to reduce those risks? before you actually looking at growing. And very important aspect, every single day, information is all about running a business successfully. Whatever business, wherever you are, you need to get that information right every single day. Certain information has to come into your table every day, every hourly basis, every weekly basis, every monthly basis. What are those adequate information that you're looking at to run your business? And how are you going to monitor those risks? Those information will give you inputs, whether it is finance, people, all of the things that I'm talking about. The point number 10, do you get enough information as a dashboard on a daily basis? How are you going to monitor, manage, and correct such risk and result? That's a very important. Who's going to manage it? Is it you, or is you have people to do that? That's another interesting question. The final question is, how are you going to pace the growth? Like you want to grow your company from 3 crores to 30 crore. Now, when does 3 crore to 30 crore transition will happen? This year 3 crore, next year 4.5 crore, next year 6 years 6 crores. So are you really pacing the growth in terms of speed, in terms of slowness, in terms of fast track? So how you want to grow this entire thing? So if you have these 14 different questions answered, I'm sure you'll be able to really plan your growth much before any challenges could happen. Okay. Having said that, I have one final message before I say thank you to you. Do you have any important questions on these particular things so far which just discussed? Anything that I spoke so far? We can still have questions after that, but anything related to these 14 questions, if you have questions, I'm ready to answer that.
Can you show me previous 2 slides?
Previous 2 slides. This one?
From 1 to 10. 1 to 9.
1 to 9.
Where were you?
Got engrossed with your talk.
You getting it?
Yes, Siti, what is your question?
No, anything to do with these 14 questions. Do you have any questions?
Sir, if I can go.
Yeah, Arun, please go ahead, Arun.
Sir, the points were amazing, and one thing which caught my attention was about the training. Since most of the small businesses do the same thing that you said, we put the new trainees under someone and say that he'll teach you what is to be done, because you cannot afford a full-time trainer or something like that. So what would be your a point on what is the right thing to do when a new person joins the organization?
Okay, I mean, just hold on to this question.
Sure.
It's just an extension of whatever I've given you.
Sure.
I'll come back and address this question immediately. But any other doubts on these 14 questions? You understood. That means you understood the question. You want some more idea. But I'm here just to test your understanding of these 14 questions. So looks like you understood this question, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I would
All
like
right.
to ask some.
Yeah. Any doubt on these 14 questions that I have given you?
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, when you say the process and my process, could you please elaborate on that? Like,
okay, again, you are asking about how to do it, right? I mean, your question and the person who asked me previously, it's both are same. Okay, so I'm going to answer that separately. So it looks like I think you all fairly understood the questions. You just wanted to know how to do it, right? So I'm going to go ahead, and this is my final slide. So growth is actually can happen many ways. And typically, when you look at the successful entrepreneurs, the first generation entrepreneurs, somebody who started from scratch, people like majority of you, maybe, I don't know how many of you would have probably inherited your business from your father, or somebody else who started previously. But typically, when you go sit with the first generation entrepreneurs, people who started from scratch, and you listen to them, they'll start telling a lot of stories about the struggle that they've gone through, right? Even us in our own BNI journey, or even other business journey, when you're looking at each one of you, you are sitting here today because of a you are a member of a BNI itself is something you have already reached a stage in life, because not everybody can afford a BNI membership, right? It's very expensive. It's very expensive compared to any other organization, whether you, I mean, the other organizations, the purpose is different, Rotary or whatever it is, the purpose is different. But here, it's far more expensive. That means you've already reached a place. In your journey, you would have gone through so much of challenges to reach wherever you are today, right? Now, having said that, an entrepreneur is somebody who comes up with so much of creative solutions. Somebody in India, we call it as jugaad. We come up with some interesting insight and innovation because we know we want to make it happen. Okay. Now, so the whole point of taking your company from A to B or even to Z, it's all in our hands as an entrepreneur. Okay. So it's a question here is how much, what is your compelling reason? What is that why you want to do that? Like this compelling reason will take you to your business to wherever you want. Okay. I'm going to leave you with a very simple example. Few years back, I was in Dubai, and like before COVID, I spent almost every month 15 days in Middle East. I have an office in Qatar. I do a lot of consulting assignment in Dubai and Qatar. So now here, on that particular day, I was in Dubai doing a consulting for one of our clients, and the person who I was talking about, my client, his uncle took a flight from Trivandrum to Dubai. Okay, the Emirates flight from Trivandrum, and you know, I think about 4, 5 years, 6 years back, this Emirates flight from Trivandrum landed in Dubai, and it had a major fire accident. You must have seen in the paper, and you know, the aircraft had into huge hit. But before that, the entire passenger were deplaned. They had about 320 plus passenger. The last passenger came out, and then the fire, it went into, the tail had some issue with fire, and it kind of, there was a blast, the back, and you know, so much of damage happened. Now, in that particular flight, we had close to about 240 plus Indians and some 40, 50 other country people. Okay. It took almost exactly 180 seconds, just 3 minutes to deplane everybody in the aircraft. 320 passengers, 180 seconds, everybody was out of the aircraft. Now, now tell me, what is the reason that all of them could come out in 3 minutes? The compelling reason would be life. If you don't come out, I will die. As simple as that, right? The person that I was in Dubai on that particular day, he very humorously said, Nassar bhai, there was 240 Indian passengers, and nowhere in the world people will get up, even the side belts are switched on. Only the Indians will do that. And because of that, they've saved another 3 minutes. So they were able to very happily come out of it. You know, jokes apart, the point here is the compelling reason to get out of the aircraft in 3 minutes made all of them survive. Okay. So that is the compelling reason that I'm talking about, because an entrepreneur is a breed apart. Whatever I've talked about today, when you do this, you can fast track it. But even without all these, the previous generation was able to do that in a much more systematic way, because they have their own ways of doing it, because their main brain power was much higher. They can remember hundreds of numbers, telephone numbers, not like us, because we are too dependent on mobile today. Even 1 or 2 numbers, maybe we will remember. Maybe 15 years, 20 years back, we will remember hundreds of numbers, our own telephone numbers, which we don't remember now, because we are too much of handicap now. So the previous generation, they are absolutely focused. They don't have distraction in terms of WhatsApp. They don't have distraction in terms of Facebook, A, B, C, D. So they were able to be fully focused and take the business to the next level. So there are amazing stories happened without even proper process. But whole thing is that any business, if you look at it, as they grow, they slowly get into the systems. Okay. With that, thank you very much.